I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents.
A local Catholic organization recognizes some giants of New York media.
We honor this, what we consider excellence and commitment to excellence, and these three people exemplify it.
She founded the Little Sisters of the Poor, and soon she'll be a saint. We'll talk to a sister who's continuing her mission.
Her words of wisdom: never forget that the poor are our Lord. So when you care for the residents, you're caring for Christ.
And look out, Michael Flatley. I hit the dance floor for some Irish step dancing. Well, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. When you think of award ceremonies, the ones that immediately come to mind, though, are, say, the Grammys, got the Golden Globes, and the Emmys, of course, which weren't too far back. This year's Primetime Emmys, a couple of weeks ago, the shows 30 Rock and Mad Men were among the big winners this year.
But not as well known, but no less prestigious, is an award that's presented by the New York Archdiocese to men and women in New York media. It is called the Triscourt Awards. Triscourt was, by the way, or is an acronym rather, for the Tri-State Catholic Committee on Radio and Television.
And this year's honorees were Fox 5's Nick Gregory, WOR Radio's John Gambling, and WHUD-FM's Casey Morabito Green. We sent our cameras to yesterday's awards ceremony.
Not enough people take time to stop and say thank you. And I think that this is really what we're trying to do. Just say thank you for, yes, for what you do, but more for who you are. Having these, what we call the Triscourt Awards, not for products, not for this was the best show of the year, but to say well done, good and faithful servants to members of the media who may or may not be Catholic, but who have high values, who exhibit professional competence and excellence.
One of the things when you're involved in the media is that you're always involved in the community. It's part of what you do. And I've always felt that I've been very blessed to have made it this far in my career and to have worked in the #1 broadcast market for the last 23 years. Having received that blessing, I've always wanted to try to give back to the community as much as I can.
It's a little overwhelming to be named for a Triscourt Award with all of these other fabulous people like Nick Gregory and John Gambling, and I've never been this excited about anything in my whole career because my faith means so much to me. And I always have that verse in my mind, to be in the world but not of it. And every day at work, you come across challenges that sort of may be at odds with your faith.
We began back in 1984, and when we started out, we were, like most other awards, looking for a particular program or a particular episode of a program to honor. But we very quickly came to realize that rather than honoring the so-called product, the end result, it would be far better for us to recognize and honor the people behind the shows on television and on radio. What we're looking for are those who uphold the highest in spiritual and human values, and if they're Catholic, that's wonderful, but certainly not a requirement.
We honor this, what we consider excellence and commitment to excellence, and these three people exemplify it. And we have a whole list of people we've honored, and we think it's the cream of the crop of New York broadcasting.
Seeing those that have received the award prior to me over the last 25 years. So to be on that list is really quite an honor and quite special.
This is great. This is the cherry on the sundae. I'm very, very happy.
Pretty high on the awesome scale.
Yeah, it's up there on the awesome scale. I would say this is probably it. Yeah. And the Yankee game started half hour ago. I've got tickets. I'm still here. I'm having cake. I want to be in the room with these people.
That must mean something then, if you missed the Yankee game for it.
I would say.
The Triscourt Awards there with some very happy honorees.
And we have posted more about the ceremony on our blog, including the list previous winners. It is a who's who of men and women in New York media, and who knows, maybe you might make it up there next year.
Maybe you might. You never know. Well, to see it, you just head on over to our website. It's currentsny.net. Click on Riding the Wave. It's right there in the lower right-hand corner of the screen.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we return, a dedication for a saint who gave her life for that of her unborn baby. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Coming up a little bit later on, I jump in with both left feet and take on Irish step dancing.
Quite a sight to behold. But first, let's take a look at the day's headlines. At the Vatican, the African Synod continues, and one bishop from Congo abruptly had to leave. Archbishop Rasengo told the Synod one of his parishes was set on fire last Friday and that priests had been abused and others were taken hostage for a ransom, which was later paid. The Archbishop says rebels want to silence the Catholic Church, which he says is the only support for people who are terrorized, humiliated, exploited, and dominated. The Synod of Bishops for Africa continues until October 25th. In Ireland, victims of clerical sex abuse met with high-ranking Catholic Church officials yesterday, but they failed to achieve what they'd most wanted, a payout and admission of guilt. Representatives for those abused while at Catholic-run schools, orphanages, and workhouses met with Ireland's senior Catholic bishops for several hours. While one archbishop called the meeting significant, church leaders did not respond to victims' demands that the church as a whole accept blame for the abuse. Well, a Bosnian cardinal says he expects the Vatican will soon have some answers to alleged sightings of the Virgin Mary at Medjugorje. The sightings have reportedly been taking place every day for nearly 30 years. The area's local bishop has commented extensively on the issue, but the Vatican has never ruled definitively on the apparitions.
Increased church attendance around the holidays means an increased risk of crime. That's the warning from a group specializing in church security. The head of the Christian Security Network says more than 75% of churches in the U.S. are not prepared for a security emergency. He says the weeks leading up to the holiday season are a perfect time for churches to make sure their security systems are up to par. Well, as we've been reporting this week, October is Respect Life Month, and recently, a woman with a powerful connection to the pro-life cause visited Canada. As we hear from H2O News, she was there to pay tribute to a saint, a woman who also just happens to be her mother.
The daughter of Saint Gianna Baratomola traveled to North America recently to speak of her mother's legacy. Laura Mola, accompanied by her husband Giuseppe Panuti, visited a community outside of Toronto for the blessing of a maternity home dedicated to Saint Gianna. At the dedication, Laura described her mother as an extraordinarily normal person who loved life and all the beautiful things of life. Laura noted the appropriateness of Saint Gianna's patronage of the maternity home, as she was a pediatrician in charge of a childcare facility from 1956 to 1962. She asked for her mother's intercession to protect the home and to instill in all those who suffer her strength of soul, hope, boundless confidence in divine providence, courage, and joy of living. Saint Gianna's confidence in God, sacrifice, and love of the Father's will was the focus of a talk the two presented at a Eucharistic Congress sponsored by the Council of Major Superiors of Women Religious, held September 11th and 12th at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. Laura described the heroic sacrifice her mother made, choosing to bring her baby to term after a tumor threatened both lives. 1 week after the birth of her child, Gianna died at 39 years old. Her gesture was an extreme act of love for life and unshakable confidence in God, explained Laura. In this, she imitated Jesus as much as a human being is able to. I am certain that in heaven up above, Mother blesses us all with her marvelous smile.
Well, St. Gianna was canonized in 2004. And the Phantom is on the move to Brooklyn. Composer Andrew Lloyd Webber announced today that the sequel to his famed musical, Phantom of the Opera, will be set on Coney Island. Webber says the show, called Love Never Dies, will feature the Phantom haunting the amusement park at Coney Island and will be set during the park's turn-of-the-century heyday. The musical is set to open in London in March. The Broadway opening of Love Never Dies is set for November 2010.
I wonder if they'll bring a performance of it to Coney Island.
That would be
Can they do it
interesting.
at Key Span Park or something?
Like just do like a live
Why
walkthrough
not?
thing.
Yeah, like Shakespeare in the Park and
Right.
Lloyd Webber in the Park. All right, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead.
Coming up, the story behind a woman who's about to become a saint.
Jean Jugan gives us a beautiful example of respect for the elderly and those who are infirm and those who the world doesn't recognize as beautiful anymore.
Well, the Little Sisters of the Poor have been doing just what their name says, ministering to the poor since being founded in France in the middle of the 19th century. But how the Little Sisters have grown. There are now nearly 3,000 of them in 32 countries around the world.
This Sunday, Pope Benedict will declare the foundress of the Little Sisters of the Poor, Jean Jugan, a saint. And to find out more about her life and work, I spoke earlier in the week with Sister Therese Werlin of the Little Sisters of the Poor in Queens Village. And we are here with Sister Therese, and you are with Little Sisters of the Poor. Thank you so much for joining us today on Currents.
Thank you for having me.
And one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, the main thing as a matter of fact, is the canonization, upcoming canonization of your foundress, Jean Jugan.
Well, Jean Jugan was born in 1792 in Brittany, France, and she grew up in a very poor family. And she was part of a third order of St. John Eudes, and so that's how she kind of developed her spiritual life. And one day she heard of an elderly woman who was blind and infirm, and her sister, who had taken care of her up to that point, ended up in the hospital, so there was nobody to take care of her. Sure. So she consulted with her companions that she lived with and brought this woman home, carried her home, up a winding staircase, and put her in her own bed. And that's how the congregation really began, with that simple yet heroic act of charity, placing her in her own bed and taking care of her.
And then that sort of became her life's work, right? I mean,
Correct.
people have, as I mentioned earlier, sort of referred to her as akin to a Mother Teresa type, an advocate
Right.
for the poor, an advocate for the needy, the sick, the homeless, the elderly.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit more about how that had manifested itself over her lifetime and since then.
Well, after that one act of charity, more elderly people sought a home with Jean, and so she, soon the room became too small. Mm-hmm. And so the congregation continued to flourish, and more young women started to help Jean Jugan with her work. And so the congregation blossomed with that, and her charism of making the elderly happy really flourished then with Jean Jugan. It was really at the beginning of her work that she was recognized as the foundress, and then it wasn't too long into her founding the Little Sisters that a priest started helping them, and then eventually he kind of took over the order and brought her to the mother house and placed her with the novices. And so when she died, she was not recognized as the foundress. He put himself forward as the founder of the congregation. So when she died, the novices which she lived with didn't know that she was the foundress. But she accepted that, and that's what I think the real reason she's being canonized too, is because she accepted that so beautifully and was so humble, even in her care of the elderly, but even accepting that injustice very simply, very humbly. And I think that's part of the reason why she's being canonized, because of her acceptance of that injustice as God's will for her.
Sure, and she continued to serve. And
because gradually there was like hundreds and hundreds of novices who were at the mother house, and she was among them, influencing them in this little hidden way with her little counsels, her words of wisdom. Like she told them, never forget that the poor are our Lord. So when you care for the residents, you're caring for Christ. And so she passed on her wisdom to the novices.
Very holy act, very holy in caring for
for
people around her as a way of connecting with her, obviously deep faith and God. Tell us a little bit more about how the begging plays into it as well, because one of the things that she did was ask people for money, right?
Correct. When she started the work, of course, what she was earning wasn't enough to care for the residents that she brought in. So she started to go begging door to door, asking for donations from wealthy people. And sometimes she got a good reception, other times she got a less than pleasant reception, but she did it in place of the residents, because some of them she brought in had been begging on the streets. So she went in their place to ask for donations to take care of the residents.
Sure. And does that play into some of the work then that you do with Little Sisters of the Poor today? And why personally for you did you elect to join this order?
Well, today we still do the collecting, and more so nowadays we go maybe to church collections on Sundays. We ask the people in the churches for donations. We go to the big markets and get donations of food. We do mailings and get money through that. So we still do the collecting today. For myself personally, I just felt it was, from young on, I wanted to be a sister. I just felt that was God's call for me. And then as I got to know the Little Sisters, I always had a love for the elderly anyway, even from when I was young with my grandparents and other encounters with elderly people. So, and I just felt that's where God directed me to the Little Sisters. So, and I'm very happy in my vocation. It's such a great grace to serve Christ in the elderly poor, and they bring us so much joy.
And as a parting note, what do you think that the Little Sisters of the Poor and Jeanne Jugan have to serve as an example to teach the rest of the world today?
Well, Jeanne Jugan is very relevant to our day, and I think that's why she is probably being canonized at this moment in our history, because of the attack on life and respect for the human person. And Jeanne Jugan gives us a beautiful example of respect for the elderly and those who are infirm and those who the world doesn't recognize as beautiful anymore, and great respect for them and their dignity as a person, because they're made in the image and likeness of God, and also respect for life. I mean, she did everything to try to uphold the dignity of the person at every stage of life.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Therese, for being here with us today on Currents. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And that is Sister Therese Werlin of the Little Sisters of the Poor. And also on Sunday, we should mention Pope Benedict will canonize another person who ministered to the poor and the outcast in the lepers of Hawaii. We'll hear more about Father Damien tomorrow. But she was really a pleasure to speak with. She obviously is very excited about her work with the Little Sisters.
Right. It is very appropriate that you ended the interview there on talking about life and respecting life, this being Respect Life Month after all. And obviously she was Jeanne Jugan was one that was really upfront about that and really an example of that.
Yeah, and the elderly and the debate that's going on now in healthcare, not just about abortion issues, but also about euthanasia issues.
Right, exactly.
So we'll hear from Father Damien or about that over the weekend or after the weekend.
Big weekend for canonization.
It is.
But stay tuned, we'll have more currents coming up straight ahead.
Coming up, find out if the luck of the Irish helps me on the dance floor.
Yeah, I can so do that. I don't know what I'm doing.
Finally tonight, well, I've lived here for just a couple of months now, and saying that Brooklyn is multicultural, it is definitely an understatement. It is way more than that. There is a reason why it is called the City of Immigrants.
That's right. And, you know, some people, though, who were born and raised here in Brooklyn might want to find out a little bit more and still want to get in touch with the culture of their ancestors. Well, in this case, a recent New York transplant from Georgia wanted to learn more about his Irish heritage through dance.
Who's that, I wonder?
I don't know. Take a look. All right, so you know, a couple of weeks ago we had the Great Irish Fair here in Brooklyn, and so ever since then I've been wanting to, because I'm part Irish, find out more about my Irish heritage. So today I'm going to learn how to step dance. Irish step dancing is what I'm going to learn, and I'm going to look it up here online. Let's see, Irish step dancing. See if I can find a video of it here. Yeah, I can so do that. That looks so easy. I don't know if a video online is really the way to go learning it, though. So I'm going to find an Irish dance class to attend. Tell me, what do you think kids get out of a class like this?
They just get enjoyment, a lot of physical activity, which is great at any age. And a lot of these girls and boys grew up together, and this is like a social network. They may have gone to Holy Name Grammar School together, and then they went to a different high school. So this is something that keeps them together, and they meet once a week. And it's a social thing as well as a physical dancing thing, and that just seems to be a certain camaraderie from being from the same kind of background, Catholic background, and so on. So it just brings the culture, the Catholic culture, and so on.
What do you think you get out of coming to a dance class?
You get to learn leg muscles. Yeah, leg muscles. You get to learn a lot of how to respect yourself and self-respect and just enjoy yourself. You learn how to enjoy yourself and have a good time.
Well, I might try and get the teacher to show me a couple of steps here in a few minutes. So don't laugh at me, all right? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to follow. I'm not doing the steps. Well, I messed that up, didn't I? Oh my God, I'm too tall. Oh, that's just, is that it? Oh, like this? Yeah. Okay. All right. I feel like an idiot. Just so you know. The most embarrassing moment of my life, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Sorry, I gotta wipe these tears from my eyes.
Thank you. No, it was that was a lot of fun. It really was a lot of fun. But I tell you what, just as a disclaimer to all of this, I was thrust into the thing because I went up and I asked the instructor. I was like, can you show me a few steps or something? And she was like, just go out there. You'll be fine. Just go out there and dance with all these people who have been practicing, for months.
And yeah, you not so much. But you look like you had fun. I mean, look, you got to try something new. And
exactly.
It was a way of connecting with your heritage, as you said, right? A little Irish dancing.
Right, and connecting with the church. And I think that's a good thing about what they do because, I mean, it's a Holy Name Church here in Windsor Terrace, not too far from where we are. And it... I think it helps kids stay connected with folks maybe that they went to Catholic school with, or maybe that they attend the same parish with. So, I mean, it really does help in that too. And
so you're not going to vie for Michael Flatley's job anytime soon?
No. I think it's safe. Michael Flatley, your job is safe.
How about the Macarena, like at a wedding or something?
I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do a Macarena. I could do the Macarena, the electric slide, that kind of thing.
Much easier for Matt. Okay.
Right.
We're going to have a dance-off one of these days, I swear. All right, well, that'll do it for this edition of Currents. Coming up tomorrow, he lived a life of service to the sick, and he is about to become a saint. We'll talk about the upcoming canonization of Father Damien tomorrow on Currents.
But until then, you can reel us in on our website. CurrentsNY.net is the address. There you can learn more about us, as well as check out our blog, our videos, and podcast of the show.
And you can watch Matt dance some more.
We can do some Irish step dancing.
You can also become our fan on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/CurrentsNY, and that fan page is updated throughout the day. It was just updated a couple of hours ago, so it is a great way to follow along with all of the happenings right here on Currents. And for all of us here at Currents, I am Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Keep dancing. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.
I wanted you to get this stuff.